So I will share my screen. So Hare Krishna everyone, welcome to our class on the Nectar of Instruction, which is a verse by verse study course. Today is our 18th class and we are now on text number 9, which we are going to discuss in today's program. The theme of today's class, which is coming from text number 9, is understanding the reality and the glory of the spiritual world with its transcendental hierarchy. So I will, it's a long topic. So what are we going to say? Reality of the spiritual world and the transcendental hierarchy. Transcendental hierarchy means there is a gradation. Something is there, something more superior is there, even more superior is there. So that is called hierarchy. And understanding the reality of spiritual world. So whether a spiritual world is reality or is it something, a fantasy, uh, that we all Vaishnavas, all aspiring devotees of Lord Krishna are actually talking about. So how to understand that a spiritual world actually is a reality, it is not a fantasy. We will talk a little bit about that also in today's class. So that is the theme of today's class, which is coming from text number 9. Now I would like to invite Jivan Radha Prabhu for reciting the Mangalacharan prayers. Prabhuji,
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु।
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपद कमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सह गण रघुतान्वान्वितं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पदं सह गण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपीश गोपिका कांत राधा कांता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Very nicely chanted, very melodious, very sweet, very nice. Thank you.
थैंक यू प्रभु जी।
Uh, okay, now let us move to the next item of our program, and that is the recap part. And I would like to invite Vasudevan Prabhuji to help us go through the recap of the previous class, which was based on text number 8. Vasudevan Prabhu, are you ready?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. I am
Yes,
ready.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. If you can also open the camera so that devotees
I
can
think
also.
my video is on.
Okay, good, very nice.
Shall I start, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji, please.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji and Namaskar to all Prabhujis and Matajis. I'll start with a small prayer to my Acharya. Srimad Vedanta Ramaja Yati Kriya Rangini Istabaram Tat Samprapta Gamanta Ditiyam Anuganam Shishtat Purna Graham Sheshta Sriranga Ramaja Muni Karnalabda Moksha Shantam Satastan Srivarakam Yativaram Anagam Deshikam Sanchayami. Hare Krishna. So the last class was on text 8 and it was class number 17, Nectar of Instruction Text 8. And this verse mainly covers how Srila Prabhupada implemented the Upadeshamrit in ISKCON, how it was implemented through ISKCON. But we'll start with the verse meaning. So the verse meaning is the essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time meaning 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastime, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja, that is Goloka Vrindavana Dhama, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. This is the text of the sloka. We have seen in the previous verse itself that how chanting cleanses us of the disease of avidya. How by chanting continuously in a nice way, our avidya is overcome and we develop a taste. And this is in continuation of that. Now, here we will focus a lot on the mind. In Bhagavad Gita, text number 6.6, we have already read. I'll just read out that Bandhur Atmanam Atmanastasya Yenatmaineva Atmanajita Anatmanastu Shatrutve Varteta Atmaiva Shatruvat. That is the translation. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. And this is what is Prabhuji elaborated in the last class. So we saw a mind can be our friend or can be our enemy. So how is mind our enemy? We'll go a little bit into it analytically, we'll see. So mind is our enemy in 4 ways. What are the 4 ways? It magnifies problems. How does it magnify problem? It magnifies problems by overthinking and glues our thoughts onto the problems and makes us feel depressed. See, we often see when we have problem, we say, I didn't sleep over that. I couldn't sleep last night because of that problem. What happens? We are all the time thinking about the problem, but we are not thinking about the solution. And the problem actually looks bigger than what actually it is. It may be a small problem, but it looks big because we have our overthinking. And what is the solution? We have seen in our workshop on chapter 7, when we talked about the 3 gunas and the capsular story, how in Sattva Guna, by thinking calmly, we are getting out of the problem. Whereas when we are in Rajo Guna or Tamo Guna, we are acting negatively. So the solution is to think calmly. And that is with Sattva Guna. And how do you think calmly? The secret for thinking calmly is being Krishna conscious. How do you are Krishna conscious? When you have full faith in the Lord, He is there to solve all your problems, which is what we studied in chapter 18 in Gita also. Everything, give all ownership to the Lord. Then you are free. You are free from the consequences. You are free from results, everything. So all that is summarized. Yes. Once you have said that the Lord is there to solve my problem, then the problem just vanishes. Your mind becomes clear. So Krishna conscious and not problem conscious. That is the solution. And I think Prabhuji was brilliant in elaborating this solution. The second problem with mind is it imagines pleasures. How does it imagine pleasures? It fantasizes. I will do this, I will become this, I will become that, I will get that. And then it daydreams and resulting in a waste of time and energy. And not only it wastes our time and energy, many times it also pollutes our mind. It pollutes our mind, and sometimes it could lead us to taking shortcuts, or it could lead us to going the wrong way just to enjoy that imagined pleasure. Again, what is the solution? Solution is simple. Keep your priorities clear. What do you mean by priorities? What do you mean by priorities is we have our principles. Priorities, we have, first is our principles. What is our principles? Even if you see in a normal materialistic level principle, okay, I will not do wrong, I will not do this. But in a spiritual level, it's much more than that. You leave everything to Krishna. And so you have your priorities clear. I am going to follow the process. I am going to have faith and follow. then you will not do daydreaming. And our acharyas, various acharyas have devised our routine in such a way that we don't have time to visualize. So like we have to do 16 rounds of chanting. We are also advised to do kirtanas. We are advised to take Krishna kathas. We have to read about Krishna. If you did all this, we are also all advised to read Bhagavatam every day. There's so many suggestions from our acharyas that if we followed these acharyas, then we will not waste time in fantasizing or daydreaming. Then the next third problem is neglect opportunities. How do we neglect opportunities? Many times our mind keeps lamenting on the past. And we see very often, if you see gossip, all the gossip, 99% of the gossip is lamenting about the past. Or everybody will say, I wish I had done this. I wish it had not happened to me, or all these things. Otherwise, we talk about future. No, this is not the right time. I will do it next year. I will do it. Like I will share a very real life example of one of my cousins who gave. This cousin is in America. He's become very religious. He doesn't eat outside. He cooks every day. He eats only prasad, and he's he's much younger to me. So one day we were asking, what is it that you have at such a young age, you have become ritualistic and this thing, etc. He said, he gave one very powerful message. He says, my father told me that when he retires, after retiring, he will do everything perfectly, etc. He says, unfortunately, he never retired because he died before he retired. So he says, you don't know what is in store for tomorrow. So whatever you want, better start today. Even today is very late. So that's in fact, it's a very small incident, real life that's really stuck with me. So we neglect opportunities, we procrastinate, we say future I will do, now I am busy doing this, I have to take care of the family, etc. So that's what is our problem. So what is the lesson from this? Lesson from this is you learn from your past, you plan for the future, but act in the present, act in the here and now. And if we focus ourselves on these actions, then I think opportunity will automatically come to us, automatically we will take care of the opportunities. Then the fourth problem is denies realities. And this denies realities is very, very common. All of us think we are very smart. We can manage this world ourselves, that we don't need the Lord's help. We forget, like in Isha Upanishad, we forget that He is the Lord and we are not even His agent. We can at best pretend to be His agent. Basically, He does. And so this is what is the false ego, the Hankar that Prabhupada keeps on referring all the time. So how do we deny realities? We deny realities like God is not helping me. When we say God is not helping me, what do we mean? We mean that God is not following my instructions. He is not fulfilling all my wishes. Well, that's not a fair expectation, even from a man. Why leave alone God? And then we say that bhakti does not work. Bhakti takes a long time, or we say, I am not capable, I am not oriented towards bhakti. I am not one who can do bhakti, who can do puja. It's not meant for me. And also, people get got distracted with material pressures. He says, what is this bhakti and all? Let's eat, sleep, and be merry. What is there? Who has seen God, etc. All these kind of atheistic thoughts also come. And so they don't realize, where are they denying reality? They don't realize that this earth is, this material world is a place of misery. In Gita, it is referred to as Dukkhalayam. So they don't, and they also think that they will live and enjoy forever, etc. So they also deny the reality of death. Death is inevitable. Death is going to come. And what is going to happen after death depends on what we do now, which we'll come to it a little later. So what is the solution? We have to understand the reality that death is inevitable. This material world is a place of misery, and the only way, by spiritual progress, by doing good acts, we get a better life next time and we progress, so that ultimately one fine day we are liberated from this material and reach Golok Vrindavana. That is the reality. And that's what we have to reconcile to. So this is now about, we know the problem that mind is created. Now, how to train the mind? Training the mind in cultivating bhakti. Again, we will go to Gita. We have already read in Gita chapter 8, where Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajanti kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So what we attain and how does it work? We have seen also in this transmigration that our past karmas determine where we are born, how we are born, what is the kind of family, what is the kind of circumstances. So we can use this life, and because of this past karma, we carry a lot of gunas, and the combination of gunas as svabhava we carry, and which is what makes us, we have some tamo guna also, we have rajo guna also, until we work our way around them, etc. They are the ones which are preventing us from cultivating bhakti. So the question is, how do you train the mind to cultivate bhakti? Because we say unless we train the mind to cultivate bhakti, the progress is not going to be. So how do we train? First thing is we have to recognize that the mind is going out of control. If we recognize the mind is going out of control, then that's the first thing. We have to recognize the problem, then only we can solve the problem. Once we recognize that the mind is going out of control, then we have to channelize it. How do we channelize it? Engaging it in devotional service under guidance. And Prabhupada has given the basic formula: ABCD, association, books, chanting, and diet. So we following all that under devotional guidance, we can engage ourselves in reading the books, have a role model like Srila Prabhupada or anybody, any other Swamiji also that appeals to you. And then we have books, lot of books, and temples, doing worship in temples, preaching, services, etc. So this is how we cultivate bhakti. Now we'll see analytically what bhakti is. Bhakti is of two types. One is Vaidhi Bhakti, which is following rules. Otherwise, Ragatmika Bhakti, spontaneous attraction. Vaidhi Bhakti, following rules, is meant for all of us. And the Ragatmika Bhakti, which is spontaneous attraction, is more for advanced devotees. In this recap, I will spend a little more time on Vaidhi Bhakti, which is more relevant to us, and a little less time on Ragatmika Bhakti. So I will directly jump 2 points I will build, and I will go to the 5 stages that we are. We'll come back to Raga Anuga Bhakti and the 5 rasas a little later. So I'll first cover that there are 5 stages. There are 5 stages of Bhakti from Shravana to Smarana. And there are 5 dashas, 5 stages from Shravana Dasa. I'm sorry. So there are 5 stages from Shravana Dasa to Smarana Dasa. And what are these? Shravana Dasa is for neophytes. Shravana Dasa is for neophytes like us, where we have intermittent memory of Krishna. Then as we do chanting and as we do more of devotional practices, we enter the next stage, which is Varna Dasa. Varna Dasa is a stage of acceptance, where we have a little more continuous remembrance of Krishna, where you have your acceptance is there, etc. Once we progress further on that, then we reach Smarana Dasha. Smarana Dasha itself has 5 divisions, which will come back to a little bigger. The Smarana Dasha is where remembering. We are remembering Krishna most of the time. We are remembering continuously. That is Smarana Dasha. Then Smarana Dasha, then next we have Apana Dasha. Apana Dasha is realization of spiritual identity, which is of course very, very advanced stage of Bhakti. And then the topmost stage is Sampatti Dasa. Sampatti Dasa is perfection, where the soul attains the spiritual form and is engaged in the eternal service of the Lord. Now we will see the 5 stages of Smarana Dasa itself. Smarana Dasa itself has 5 levels, which is first is Smarana, which is distracted remembrance of Krishna, which is very intermittent remembrance, not continuous remembrance, very distracted. It's continuously getting distracted. Now, as we do devotional practices, it progresses a little further, then we reach the stage of Dharana. Dharana means where we are able to remember Krishna without distraction. We have to be able to remember for a little longer periods without distraction, remember Krishna. Then as we progress further, then we get to dhyana. Dhyana is even further advanced, where you are able to continuously meditate upon the Lord. You have to meditate for long periods of time, etc. That is dhyana. When this further progresses, then we reach the stage of anusmriti. Anusmriti is constant performance of dhyana. You are able to perform dhyana for very long period constantly without effort, etc. And final stage is samadhi. Samadhi is, of course, unceasing anusmriti, unceasing or spiritual trance. That is, of course, a very, very high level of stage for devotees, and that is samadhi. Now we will just come back to the advanced of raga anuga bhakti. Raga Nuga Bhakti. Raga Nuga Bhakti. And Raga Nuga Bhakti is under the guidance of advanced associates of Krishna, that is staying in Braj, being a Brajvasi, staying in Vrindavan and doing this. Now here staying in Vrindavan, what does staying in Braj means? Staying in Braj means it is in that mood of spiritual service. It is that mood that is described as Faras. Now, when Raga Anuga Bhakti, external, what are the externals? The external practice is hearing and chanting. And what is the internal practice? Internal practice is serve according to one spiritual form. And what is that spiritual form? That spiritual form has 5 modes of Raga Anuga Bhakti. The 5 modes are Shanta Dasa, Dasya Dasa, Sakya Dasa, Vatsalya Dasa, and Madhurya Dasa. Shanta Dasa is in the form of the cows, the associates, the material things around Krishna, that is experiencing that is the Shanta Dasa. Dasya Dasa is in the form of a service to Krishna as Krishna's servant, etc. And then Sakya Dasa is like a friend, like Baldeva or like Arjuna, that is the Sakya Dasa. And Vatsalya Dasa is the motherly affection, which is expressed in the form of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Maya, etc. And Madhurya Rasa is the conjugal love which the gopis and very Radha Rani, that form is called Madhurya Rasa. So this is, of course, all these are for very, very advanced thing. It is more for our academic informative interest. And I think that's all I have, Prabhuji. Thank you, and for giving me the opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks a lot for covering the recap. Hope that was useful for everyone in the class. Very nicely covered. Thank you. So let us now move to the next item in our program today. And we will now go to the text number 9. But before going text number 9, let us look where exactly we are now in Nectar of Instruction, this book. So as you can see on your slide, there are 3 themes. And among these 3 themes, we have placed each of these texts in the book. We are just now had a recap of text number 8, which is the theme of reside in Vraja. Now we are moving to text number 9, further going deeper into what does residence in Vraja actually means. And today's theme is primarily about the holy places, the holy dham, the spiritual world, and the uh, the presence of the dhams, which are the representation of spiritual world in this material world. So we will be talking about that. Now you can see here in the first 2 stages, which is avoid things unfavorable to bhakti, adopt things favorable to bhakti. These are those stages which are at the stage of when we are in the diseased condition. Diseased condition means we still have anarthas in our heart in a strong way, and we want to remove those anarthas. We want to become healthy. Right now we are in a diseased position. So what are we supposed to do? So we need to study about the 6 urges, 6 vices, 6 virtues that we should do, how we should engage, how we should associate in a loving way with the devotees, and in association also how to appropriately associate with three type of devotees, and then among three type of devotees also association with the advanced devotees or uttamadhikari is most important, how to associate specifically with the uttamadhikari, and then ultimately the prime practice, that is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, how to awaken the dormant taste for Krishna's name. So that is primarily talking about the disease stage where we are recovering from our disease. But now once we have recovered from our disease, we are now moving towards more healthier condition of life, healthier spiritual condition of life. We are not talking about reside in Vraja. So this is, these 8, 9, 10 and 11 verses are mainly uh, in the advanced stage of devotional service. So that is where they are talking about. So you might find that some of the concepts discussed in these verses might, you may not directly able to relate to them, and we may have to explain it to you uh, in a more uh, in a more basic level for you to able to connect with these verses in a more uh, stronger way. So that's where I think we are right now in the book at the moment. And similarly in this slide you will see we have discussed text 8, which is at the level of asakti. Asakti means when we have strong connection with the Lord, or we cannot live without devotional service, we cannot live without chanting of the holy names, we cannot live without hearing Krishna Katha in our life. So that is asakti, very deeply attached to devotional service. And you can see asakti is a stage which comes, which is an advanced stage where spontaneous loving reciprocation, loving devotion for Krishna actually is manifested in the devotee's heart. Now, text number 9 to 11, these last texts, 9, 10, 11, we are not talking about even more advanced stages, bhava and prem. Hmm. So we will be talking about spiritual world, hierarchy of spiritual world, and like that. But uh, as these texts are more for advanced stage, but we will try to include those kind of explanation in the class where we can relate much more easily with all what has been discussed in these particular texts. Okay, with that little introduction, uh, let us now come to the text number 9. And in text number 9, the meter has changed. Meter means the chand has changed. So you will see that in Nectar of Instruction, primarily in the first verses, we will see Anushtup chand, the same chand that you will see primarily in Valmiki Ramayana or in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, simple 8 syllable uh, uh, type of meter. And then we, last few meters we have seen, uh, specifically 6, 7 and 8, they are in Vasant Tilak. And I mentioned to you Vasant Tilak Chand is the same in which we also chant the Brahma Samhita. But now, so Vasant Tilak has 14 syllables, but in text number 9 the syllable has, the meter has changed, the chand has changed. The chand now has become Shardul Vikridatam. Shardul Vikridatam. So Shardul is known as lion, and Vikridatam means playful. So Shardul, if I am not wrong, I think means the cub, the small child of a lion. So it is a very sweet melody. It goes like something like a playful lion, huh? Like when sometimes it jumps, sometimes it stops, like that. So I will try to recite the uh, this particular text in the same meter, so you can learn how to recite, how to actually sing this, and maybe you can also practice and sing it like that. वैकुण्ठ जनितो वरमधुपुरी तत्रापि रासोत्सवात् बृन्दारण्यमुदारपाणिरमणात् तत्रापि गोवर्धना राधाकुण्डमिहापि गोकुलपते प्रेमामृताप्लावनात् कुर्यादस्य विराजतो गिरितटे सेवां विवेकी नका. So like that, this is Shardul Vikridatam, and I hope you have understood the melody. It is 19 syllables and it is sung like that. In between there is a little pause, and then you continue to complete the line. Now we will go line by line and try to understand the meaning of each of these lines, probably each of the word also. We will try to connect the translation and the meaning of the Sanskrit verses together. So Vaikunthat Janito Vara Madhupuri Tatrapi Rasot Savad. This is the first line. Now Vaikuntha is everybody would know in the class. Vaikuntha is the in general we call spiritual world as Vaikuntha. Kuntha means stress or distress. Vaikuntha, Vaikuntha would mean that there is a place where there is no distress. So for the material world, we know it is known as Dukhalayam, but Vaikuntha is the place where there is no Dukkha, there is no Kuntha. So that is Vaikuntha. Now, Vaikuntha Janito Vara Madhupuri. So Madhupuri is known for Mathura, and Vara means superior. So Madhupuri is superior to Vaikuntha. And why it is superior to Vaikuntha? Because Janito. Janito means because the Supreme Lord Krishna took birth in Mathura. That is why Mathura actually is superior to Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. Now, which Mathura we are talking about here? We are talking about Mathura which is present in the material world, near New Delhi. In this material world, near New Delhi, there is a Mathura city, and that is the Mathura city being talked about here. So, a city in the material world which is known as Mathura is superior to Vaikuntha. Why? Because the Supreme Lord took birth in the Mathura, in the city of Mathura. But superior to Mathura is Vrindavan. Why? Why superior to Mathura is Vrindavan? Because Rasot Savad Tatrapi means Mathura. Tatrapi superior to Mathura is Vrindaranyam. So now we are moving to from first line to the second line, but the first line actually is connected with the flow continues from the first line to the second line. So here Tatrapi Rasot Savad, then Vrindaranyam Udar Pani Ramanat Tatrapi Govardhana. So Tatrapi has come two times in the words, Tatrapi in the first line and Tatrapi in the second line. So the first Tatrapi is telling that this Mathura, superior to Mathura is Brindaranyam, Brindavan. And why Vrindavan is superior? Because Rasotsavad, Utsava is festival. Which festival? Ras Leela festival. So due to Krishna's Ras Leela, which comes from the first line, so due to Krishna's Ras Leela, Vrindaranyam is superior. So Vrindavan is superior. Yeah? And then in the second line it says Tatrapi Govardhana. So superior to Vrindavan is Govardhan. Tatrapi Govardhana. Like it mentioned Tatrapi Vrindaranyam, it is now saying Tatrapi Govardhana. So Tatrapi here refers to Vrindavan. So superior to Vrindavan is Govardhan. Why? Because Udar Pani Ramanath. Udar Pani is another name for Lord Krishna. Udar means magnificent. Udar means very benevolent, very magnanimous, and Pani means hands. So the Lord who has magnanimous hands, who is very magnanimous, who is very Udar. So Udar Pani Ramanath. So why Govardhan is superior to Vrindaranyam? Because Udar Pani, Lord Krishna, actually Ramanath, he wandered around in the foothills in the Govardhan hill. So that is why Govardhan actually is superior to Vrindavan. Govardhan is still superior because Lord Shri Krishna performed his leelas, his pastimes there with Srimati Radhika Rani. And then Radha Kundam Ihapi Gokul Pate Premamrit Aplavanat. So then superior to Govardhan, Tatrapi Govardhana. So superior to Govardhan is superior is Radha Kund, where Gokul Pate. So Gokul Pate, the Lord of Gokul, is again the name of Lord Krishna. uh, Prem Amrit Aplavanat. Prem Amrit Aplavanat. So there are three words here. Prem means love, and Amrit means nectarian love, which is very sweet and which is really very, very delicious, very, very relishable. Prem means love, and Amrit means relishable. Uh, Aplavanat. Aplavanat means over flooded. Over flooded. Over flooded means like in floods, when the city is afflicted with the flood, everything gets submerged in water. So that is what Aplavanat. Aplavanat means submerged deeply in the nectarian love of Lord Krishna, nectarian love of Gokul Pate. So Radha Kund is still superior to Govardhan. And where is Radha Kund situated? Radha Kund is actually situated in the foothills of Govardhan. So, and then Kuryad Asya Virajato Giritate Sevam Viveki Naka. Kuryad Asya. So where it is situated? Where is Radha Kund situated? Virajato. Virajato means it is situated Giri Tate, in the foothills of that Giri, in the foothills of that Govardhan hills. And one who knows this, one who knows this, Radha Kund is actually the topmost, holiest of places. Uh, then who who is little bit intelligent? Which intelligent person will not be like Viveki? Viveki means who has discrimination. Intelligence. The work of intelligence, the function of intelligence is to discriminate between the right and the wrong. So who is that intelligent person who will not actually like to serve Radha Kunda, which is situated at the foothills of Govardhan Hill? So that is the sum and substance of this text number 9. So it talks about Vaikuntha first of all, but after talking about Vaikuntha, it talks about all the places which are situated actually in this material world. And when it is talking about the places in this material world, it starts with Mathura. So within Mathura, there is Vrindavan. Vrindavan is situated in inside Mathura district. So within Mathura, there is Vrindavan. Within Mathura, there is Govardhan Hill. And within Govardhan Hill, at the foothills of Govardhan Hill, there is Radha Kund. So it is zooming in actually, starting from Vaikuntha, but zooming in to right down to Radha Kund, and telling the reader, Rup Goswami is telling the reader that Radha Kund is the topmost holiest of places in this whole universe. In this whole universe includes the spiritual world as well as the material world. And if somebody knows about it, then who will not be actually willing to serve Radha Kund, which is situated at the foothills of Govardhan Hill? So that is the sum and substance of text number 9. Now let us look at some of the important word meanings of text number 9. So Madhupuri, as I mentioned, it is another name for Mathura. Rasotsavad. Rasotsava. Utsava means festival, and Ras means Ras Lila. So festival of Ras Lila. Udhar Pani is another name of Lord Krishna, as I mentioned. Aplavanat. Aplavanat is over flooded, and Virajata. Virajata is actually situated. So these are some of the word meanings from this particular text, which you might find relevant, important. If you remember these word meanings, it becomes very easy to understand the Sanskrit, understand the text in its original content. You don't really actually have to read the translation to figure out the meaning, but if you know these important word meanings, you can figure out from the Sanskrit itself. Now let us quickly look at the translation that Srila Prabhupada has given. The holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathurapuri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan because of Krishna's Ras Leela pastimes, and superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prem of Lord of Gokul, Sri Krishna. When then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radha Kund, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill? So that is the translation Srila Prabhupada has given. Now let us look how are we going to cover the meaning and the purport of this particular text number 9 in our class today. So as I mentioned to you, it is talking about a spiritual world starting from Vaikuntha, and then it boils down to the holy places within this material world: Mathura, Vrindavan, Govardhan Hill, and then Radha Kund, and then glorifies that that Radha Kund is the supreme most. So the topic of spiritual world itself is uh, complex enough. Complex means it is still too transcendental for our tiny brains to accumulate and to understand or assimilate. So first of all, we are going to discuss, is spiritual world a reality? Uh, because our scriptures talk a lot about spiritual world, Vaikuntha, Golok, Vrindavan, and so on and so forth. But many people don't really accept, don't really are able to digest that whether there is still a certain place known as a spiritual world, Golok, Vrindavan, or Vaikuntha, etc. So we will focus a little bit on of our time in the class today to first of all reflect upon whether a possibility of some place like a spiritual world, Vaikuntha, Golok, Vrindavan, whether the possibility of having such a place really makes sense or not. We will reflect a little bit on that. And then, as Srila Prabhupada has given the purport, Srila Prabhupada has given only a 1.5 page long purport to this particular text. So, not a very long, lengthy purport, but he has given some nice bullet points in the purport, which we will try to elaborate upon a little bit. So, he has talked about Vaikuntha, he has also talked about Mathura. Now, Vaikuntha is a spiritual world in the spiritual sky, but Mathura is the city which is present in this material world. Huh? So many times people talk about when we go to these holy places, we don't perceive them to be as holy. They don't appear to us as holy. So how to perceive a holy place when we visit a holy place? How to perceive the dham, the holy place in the material world? We will talk a little bit about that also in the class today. And then we'll continue with the purport by Prabhupada on what he has mentioned about Vrindavan. Then uh, moving towards Govardhan, elaborate a little bit about why Govardhan actually is very much dear to Lord Krishna. And ultimately, the topmost above all, even superior to Govardhan, in the hierarchy list, has been given Sri Radha Kund. So why Sri Radha Kund has been given the topmost priority in the list of all the holy places? We will reflect a little bit on that as well. So let us continue to discuss this. And this particular slide is giving you hierarchy of holy places. So we have already covered Vaikuntha to Sri Radha Kund, but Vaikuntha is superior to the material world in which we are living: Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay, New York, Australia, so on and so forth. You name many places in this material world. So Vaikuntha is certainly superior to material world, but even superior to Vaikuntha is Mathura, Brindavan, Govardhan, and Sri Radhakunda. So I have tried to graphically show you how the hierarchy of these holy places look like in this slide. So discuss a little bit about Vaikuntha first of all, and I will try to show you with the help of this slide, with the help of this image, this picture, what is spiritual sky, what is material world, uh, where actually Vaikuntha planets are can be seen in this particular picture, and so on. So Vaikuntha is the spiritual world, and this is situated. All these Vaikuntha planets are situated in the spiritual sky. And Srila Prabhupada write in his purport that out of the total creation means including spiritual world and including material world, both combined together. uh, the spiritual world is Tripad Vibhuti. Tripad Vibhuti means it is actually the three-fourth of the whole creation. Three-fourths of the total creation is the spiritual world. And in this, and the one-fourth is actually the material world. Hmm. And this spiritual world, which is known as Vaikuntha, is superior to the material world. So now let us look in this picture. Where is the Vaikuntha planet? Where is the material world? Now you see here the light green portion here in this picture where I'm moving my cursor. This is all, below this is material world. You will see various universes in the Brahmand. Anda means egg. So they are in the shape of egg. They are oval shaped, and there are different universes. You can see there are different Brahmandas in the Karana ocean. And one such universe is there where you will find different lokas are there. And above this material world starts the spiritual sky. And the beginning of spiritual sky is with Brahma Jyoti, the effulgence, the spiritual effulgence emanating out from the spiritual planets, from the body of the Supreme Lord. Above that, you will find there's a Kailash planet. Kailash planet is the abode of Lord Shiva. And above this Kailash planet, you will see Vaikuntha planets are there, all Vaikuntha lok. So there are different planets in all these Vaikuntha loks are there. And here Lord Vishnu along with Lakshmi Devi is worshipped in the mood of awe and reverence, with lot of reverence, with lot of great. Vaikuntha planets is Madhurya Dham. Madhurya Dham means the Golok Vrindavan, where Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani, they are performing their pastimes there. So this is much Srila Prabhupada has mentioned about the Vaikuntha planets, that it is situated in the spiritual sky, it is superior to the material world, and it occupies three-fourths in the total creation. And this is something to show you. This slide is to show you that how it is Tripad Vibhuti. Tripad Vibhuti means it is three-fourth. So this is Golok Vrindavan. These are all Vaikuntha planet, but in the corner there is a material world. So this is to show you how the Tripad Vibhuti and Ekpad Vibhuti. So the material world is Ekpad Vibhuti, and the spiritual sky, the rest is spiritual sky. It is Tripad Vibhuti. This is picture is to show you the mood, the way Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi Devi is worshipped in Vaikuntha planets. So Lord Vishnu is actually the king of Vaikuntha planets. Lakshmi Devi is his consort, and all the residents of Vaikuntha planets look exactly like Lord Vishnu. You can see here, Lord Vishnu is here, and the associates there also look like Lord Vishnu. Uh, so they are worshipping Lord Vishnu with the mood of awe and reverence in the Vaikuntha planets. Now we will spend a little time on, many people say uh, that is there really a place known as Vaikuntha? Is a spiritual world a reality or is it a fantasy? So many people, since they don't really appreciate, they think that whatever you are mentioning about Vaikuntha, spiritual world, is simply a fantasy. We will spend a little bit time on making sense that whether a spiritual world can be a reality or not. And we will try to discuss that topic based on these 5 bullet points. And these 5 bullet points are that longing for supernatural is natural. So we will reflect a little bit on this particular point, that we see in our day-to-day life that we like many supernatural things. Actually, we not only like, we are actually very serious about liking of supernatural things. So liking of supernatural or longing for anything supernatural actually is very natural to human being, and we will see how in the slides to come. Then all of the major world's religion talk about spiritual world. They be it Islam, be it Christianity, or any other major religion of the world, they all talk about something beyond this material world, something beyond this, something spiritual in nature. Then we read about the spiritual world or world beyond this material world at many places in scriptures. So there are many scriptures which talk about spiritual descriptions available. So why do we accept scriptural description? We will try to understand in the class today. The fourth bullet is that the soul is eternal and the world is temporary. So this point is about that we have understood from our study so far from Bhagavad Gita and many other texts in the Ishopanishad and so on, that we are not this body, we are souls, and soul is eternal. uh, So if soul is eternal, but everything around us in this world is temporary, does that tell us something about the spiritual world or not? We will talk about that also. And limited understanding of reality. So people, those who say that spiritual world actually is a fantasy, they are probably ignoring this fact that reality can be much more larger than what we perceive in our daily life. And we will try to elaborate a little bit on limited understanding of reality, that reality can be beyond what we perceive actually. And if reality can be beyond what we actually perceive, then possibility of a spiritual world is certainly very much there. So with those 5 bullet points, we will try to uh, take you to this possibility, that at least we come to this acceptance that it is possible to have a place called a spiritual world which is beyond this material world. At least that much we can try to have some confidence upon that. Let us look at all these bullet points one by one. So longing for supernatural is natural. How do we see that? We see that every now and then in our daily life. And how do we see? uh, we see these movies like Harry Potter, we see these movies like Spider-Man, we see movies like Disneyland, Disney World, and all that. So all these movies draw a wide number of audience. Whenever such a movie come into the market, it draws wide number of audience, and not only uh, illiterate people, not only very uneducated people, even highly educated people also go and watch these movies. Not only highly educated people go and watch these movies, actually very highly educated people make these movies. They are making these movies, they are doing business out of these movies. Why? Because people just love supernatural stories. They really like about them. They really very are very fond about them. These movies are big hits when they are shown in the market today. Why? Because people are bored with daily level of existence. They just can't continue to live in the same way as they have been living in their life all their life. So they are really bored with their daily level of existence. So they just want to come out from their boredom and watch these movies which are about supernatural stories. Now the question is, why would people like these supernatural movies? They will like these supernatural movies because there is a longing within our heart which likes these supernatural things. And the entertainment industry takes this supernatural movies very very seriously. So the point I'm trying to make here is that because there is a longing for these supernatural stories, uh, people create these imagination stories, imagination movies, uh, just to satisfy the heart of people. Now, why would they like to satisfy the heart of people? Because the longing for supernatural is natural. That is what the main message from this first bullet. And when the longing for supernatural is natural, then it is very much possible that there is a place in this whole creation where a supernatural place, like what we call as spiritual world, that exists in reality, that exists in reality. So this is the first bullet that I want to start with. And then going to the next one, all of the major world religion talk about the spiritual world. Now we talk about the spiritual world in different religion in different words. For example, we talk about kingdom of God, we talk about heaven in Christianity, we talk about Jannat in Islam. There is a concept of Jannat, and in Vedic literature we talk about Vaikuntha. And specifically in Vedic literature we talk about these spiritual world as our original home, and the material world is primarily talked about is only a station, only a station. Station means that we actually belong to the spiritual world, but we come to this material world only for the time being, only for some time. So this is simply a station. And journey to this world is something like a reform center. Reform center means that we originally belong to the spiritual world, but when we come to this material world, it is mainly to reform ourselves so that we can go back once again to the spiritual world. So the point I'm trying to make here, dear devotees, is that uh, major religions of the world actually talk about something called a place which is known as spiritual world. They talk about it in a different ways. Specifically in the Vedic literature, we talk about spiritual world as Vaikuntha, and this world only as a temporary residence, which is something like a reform center. And once we reform ourselves from the six anarthas, we go back to the spiritual world. Then all the scriptures, specifically the Vedic scriptures, talk in detail about it. Hmm. Now, why should we take or believe in scriptures? So, first of all, is if scriptures are talking about spiritual world, somebody might question that are these scriptures really authentic books, or the information given in the scriptures, can we really take these books very seriously? Now, in order to answer that question, let us reflect a little bit about that. We when we are living in this material world, we find that we have different needs. We have needs for hunger, we become hungry. uh, we have need for entertainment, we have need for looking at different nice things, and so on and so forth. So for each of these different needs that we have in this material world, the material world offers an answer to us. How? For example, we have need for we become hungry, so the material nature provide us food. Yeah? we we like to see beautiful things, our eyes like to see beautiful things, so the nature provide different beautiful visions. For example, there is a beautiful sunrise, there's a beautiful sunset, there's a beautiful scenic picturesque beautiful scenery in hilly areas that we can see. So the point I'm trying to make is that for each of our needs there is an answer available in this material world. Now, there is also need for knowledge. There is also a need for knowledge in the human being. So, for the need of knowledge, the material nature, through the arrangement of the Lord, also provides us books or information through scriptures. So, scriptures are the manual of knowledge that fulfills the need of human being for knowledge. And in these scriptures, in these holy books, that description of spiritual world is there, which can be taken seriously. And another angle to take these scriptures very seriously is that we would know that how people who have studied these scriptures, people who have followed these scriptures, are actually not ordinary people. They are very intelligent people. They have made good reputation in the material world because of their wisdom, because of their knowledge, and so on. In fact, we can see say people like, for example, Rup Goswami. has written these books called Nectar of Instruction. And in Nectar of Instruction, they are talking about problems like lust, anger, greed, pride, illusion, envy, vices, how we can overcome these vices. So first 7 verses, if we read of this book, we don't find anything unnatural. We don't find anything that to which we cannot relate with. But starting from text number 8, 9, 10, 11, they are now talking about something more grand, something more sophisticated, like they are talking about spiritual world and so on. But who are these people? These are very, very intelligent people who understand the working of life, who understand how to live in this material world in a very detailed manner. And if these people are talking about something called spiritual world, I think we can take the concept of spiritual world very seriously. Then the fourth point is soul is eternal and world is temporary. Uh, so from this bullet point, what I'm trying to explain is that when we say soul is eternal, and we have been talking about in our study of Bhagavad Gita and other texts, that we are not this body, we are spirit soul. At our death, the body perishes, but the soul still continues to live and continue to acquire another body. And in this life also, we see that there is a longing for life, longing to live forever. There is always a longing to live forever. If you want to take life from some living entity, even if it is an animal, the living entity actually resists. Uh, there's a there's a longing to live forever in each one of us. Uh, from where this longing is coming? This longing is coming because we are a spirit soul. We are not dead matter. We are conscious living entities who want to live forever. And because the soul is eternal, hence there is a longing to live forever. Hmm? But why is there such a longing? Why is there such a longing within us? We see there is a mismatch. And what is the mismatch? We see this material world is around us. And in this material world, everything is perishable, everything is temporary. Uh, You see, if you pick anything from this material world, some wood, some metal, anything has some expiry date. After that, the matter actually perishes in this material world. But we who are souls, who are spiritual beings, who are spirit souls, we have longing to live. So there is a mismatch. The mismatch is that material world is temporary. The material world, everything is temporary, but we have this longing to live forever. We are eternal. We have longing to live eternally. So there is a mismatch. And if there is a mismatch, that means we actually don't belong to this material world. We belong to something spiritual. We belong to something which is eternal, which is also not temporary, which is also eternal. So there is a mismatch. Now I would like to give you an analogy here. If you go to a room where there is only stack of hay, there is only bhusa, there is stack of hay all in the room, but while roaming in that room where there is nothing else but only stack of hay, you find somewhere in a corner there is a gold ring. Immediately you will think that everywhere in this room there's hay, there's stack of hay, but only at this point I can find something which is a gold ring. Immediately a question will come to your mind: from where actually this gold ring is coming? This does not belong to this place. This belongs to somewhere else. This belongs to some place where there is only gold. Uh, why it is actually coming here, where in the room where only hay is there? So that is the same analogy I'm putting here. We are in this material world, and in this material world, everything is temporary. But we have this longing to live forever. From where this longing is coming? Actually, this longing is coming because we don't belong to this material world. We belong to a spiritual world where there is everything is eternal. So the spiritual world is the natural home for the spirit soul. So that is the fourth bullet. And the fifth bullet is for those people who claim that we don't see anything spiritual world. We can't see spiritual world with our eyes. So since we cannot see spiritual world with our eyes, we cannot perceive spiritual world with our senses, then there should not be any place like Vaikuntha, there should not be any place like kingdom of God, Jannat, heaven, etc., etc. To those people, the argument we can give is that our senses are limited. Our all our senses are limited. And give you a couple of examples. Our ears are limited. Our ears are limited means you have read in maybe in your high school days that the human ear can only hear sound between 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Below 20 hertz, the human ear cannot recognize a sound. Above 20,000 hertz, the human ear cannot recognize a sound. Similarly, our vision is limited. Our vision is limited. We cannot see X-rays, we cannot see infrared rays, and so on. We cannot see many other things that are beyond our human eye capability. So the point is that we are living in a reality where we can perceive only a small chunk of that reality. Beyond that level of reality, we cannot see. Even if I would like to go into the detail of the desk on which we are working upon, if we go into the we see our desk something as stationary, but if we go at the more atomic level, we know that there are atoms, there are electrons, there are protons. Electrons are revolving around, protons are moving around, and so on. So even at the sub-molecular, subatomic level of reality, our perception is very, very different. So the way we see the macro world, the micro world is completely different from the macro world, isn't it? So the point is, people who claim that a spiritual world cannot exist because our senses cannot perceive it, we need to tell them that our senses are limited, and there is much more beyond our senses, and hence it is a possibility that there is a place which is called as material world, or there is a place which is known as a spiritual world. There is a possibility that such a place can exist. Even if you go above earth, uh, into the space, how does you perceive our earth in the from the space? Only like a bluish marble, like a small marble. The children would like to play with marbles. The same tiny marble the earth looks like. So there is much more. The more we start to know about our material world, the more we start to realize, the less we know. If we go to the space, we find that there is so much more to know. And with that realization, it is easy to understand that there is very much likelihood that a place called spiritual world, Jannat, kingdom of God, can also exist. So all these 5 bullets can give you food for thought that the reality that in which we are living, it is very much possible to have reality beyond the reality in which we are living. And from Bhagavad Gita, where do we find the description of spiritual world? We find in chapter number 8, verse number 20, where it says, Parastasmat tu bhavanyo vyakto avyaktat sanatana yah sa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. Parastasmat tu bhavanyo. Yet there is another unmanifest nature, avyakto. Unmanifest nature is avyakto. Parastasmat. Parastasmat means there is another para. Para means transcendental, beyond this material world, which is avyakto. Avyakto means unmanifest. Avyaktat sanatana, which is eternal and which is transcendental, hmm, which is avyaktat, which you cannot see, you cannot actually perceive with your own senses. And then yaha sa sarveshu bhuteshu. So when this sarveshu bhuteshu, uh, nashyatsu, when all this material world is annihilated, yasu sarveshu bhuteshu, when all of this world is annihilated, na vinashyati, that part remains as it is. So this material world, when it annihilates, that spiritual world still exists, and this spiritual world is para. It is transcendental, it is beyond this material world, it is avyakta, you cannot see it, it is unmanifested, it is sanatana, it is eternal, and like that. So the qualities of material world or spiritual world is actually given in this particular uh, text of, of Bhagavad Gita. Are you still with me, everyone, in the meeting? Okay.
Hare Krishna, yes, sir.
Okay, Prabhuji. Yeah. My mobile just now battery switched off, so I thought that let me check if everyone is here. Okay. So with that description, let us move to the holy place of Mathura. So regarding Mathura, Srila Prabhupada in his purport is mentioning uh, this place Mathura is accessible to us in material world, and it is superior to the spiritual world. Why it is superior to spiritual world? Because Lord Sri Krishna have taken birth in this place of Mathura. So you can see there are certain things in the pastimes of the Lord which actually doesn't even happen in the spiritual world. For example, Lord Krishna's birth does not happen in the spiritual world. Lord Krishna's birth takes place in the material world, at the holy place of Mathura. And because of those activities, because of those pastimes, these holy places are even more special. And that is the reason Srila Rup Goswami is writing that Mathura is even more confidential, even more superior to the spiritual world, which is the Vaikuntha planets. So here you see in this slide, I have shown that Krishna Janmasthan temple in Mathura. So this is the place where Lord Krishna actually took birth in Mathura city. So when we talk about the holy places in this material world, many times the question arises in our mind how to perceive these holy places, because when we go to these holy places we don't really appreciate them to be really holy. And why? Because to our eyes we only see uh, in these places that these are dirty places, there is a sewage going on, there are hogs, there are dogs, it is not very clean, the buildings are in a uh, very bad condition and so on. So when we go to these places like Mathura, Vrindavan, etc., to our ordinary eyes the places don't appear really to be holy. So how do we really perceive these places which we know as dham? So for that, the answer given is that we perceive these holy places only based on our adhikar. Adhikar means our capacity. So if we don't have the capacity, if we don't have the spiritual vision, if we don't have the adhikar, we cannot perceive these holy places with our ordinary eyes to be really holy, to be really spiritual. And I can explain you, I will try to explain you that with an analogy of the mainframe computer. So those people who know a little bit about computing, computers, etc., they would know that in big organization there is a mainframe computer. Mainframe computer means the main computer, and through this main computer there are different small computers are attached, and people who manage these computers, they are given access level of different kinds. So people who are really have just now come to the organization, they are given a very basic level access to the computing system. Then people who are a little more higher located in the organization, maybe vice presidents or maybe some senior employees in the organization, they would be given little more access to the computing system. And to the uh, to the owner of the organization, the full access of the mainframe computer actually is given. So similar is our position. So because we have anarthas in our heart, because we have lust, anger, pride, illusion, envy, we have all these six kind of different anarthas in our heart, our eyes cannot have access to the spiritual holy dhams when we go to these places. We don't are we are not given access by the Supreme Lord. So as we progress further, as we progress more and more, and our heart becomes purified of our anarthas, the access is given uh, to us to actually perceive the holy dham as really spiritual. And the formula to perceive the dham is like scriptural description plus sensory purification plus pray for revelation. What this means is we understand about the superiority of holy dham from the description given in the scriptures, and we go to the holy dham, we behold the holy dham with our senses, with our eyes, with our ears, with our nose, and so on. We try to behold the holy dham with our senses, and by beholding the holy dham with our senses, we get purification. We associate with the devotees in the holy dham. We hear Krishna Katha in the holy dham. So by that we get purification, and with that scriptural description with sensory purification, we then continue to pray for pray to the Lord for revelation, pray to the Lord, beg for his mercy that actually give us that revelation of the holy dham which you have described in the scriptures. So with that formula we can slowly and gradually understand the spiritual nature of the holy dham, the purified nature of the holy dham. So superior to Mathura is Vrindavan, as given in the verse, as given in the text. Why Vrindavan? So Vrindavan is superior to Mathura because Lord Krishna has performed many pastimes with Srimati Radhika Rani in the holy place of Vrindavan. And what is Vrindavan? Vrindavan comprises of 12 forests, uh, starting with Talavan, Madhuvan, Bahulvan, and so on. So there are many forests. In primer, mainly there are 12 forests, and Dwadash one. Dwadash means 12, one means forest. So there are 12 forests in Vrindavan, and in each of these forests, Lord Krishna has performed many sweet pastimes with Srimati Radhika. And that is why Vrindavan is even more superior to Mathura. Mathura, Lord Krishna took birth, but in Vrindavan, Lord Krishna performed many leelas with Srimati Radhika Rani, including the Ras Leela, and that is why Vrindavan is even more confidential. So Ras Leela is one of those pastimes in which even Lakshmi Devi was not given entry. Lakshmi Devi is goddess of fortune in Vaikuntha planets, and Lakshmi Devi has this mood of ownership, mood of Swami, mood of ownership. She doesn't have the, although she is the consort of Lord Vishnu in the Vaikuntha planet, but she has this mood of ownership. I am the queen of Vaikuntha, like that. So that is why she is not given access to the pastimes of Ras Leela. So pastimes of Ras Leela are even more confidential, and that is why. And since these pastimes are performed in Vrindavan, that is why uh, this has been considered even more superior to Mathura. So here, the picture that I'm showing you is the Krishna Balaram temple of ISKCON movement in the holy place of Vrindavan. Coming to the another holy place, which is Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill is situated in Vrindavan. That is one another place in Vrindavan. So Govardhan Hill is considered even more superior to Vrindavan. Why? Because Lord Krishna lifted this hill with his finger. Uh, Lord Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill with his finger, and Govardhan performed a very beautiful service, beautiful seva for Lord Krishna. Govardhan Hill become like an umbrella in a very difficult time when Lord Indra was uh, wreaking havoc by sending rains, by sending a lot of lightnings and so on. So at that time, Govardhan Hill did this very beautiful service to Lord Krishna, protected all the Vrajvasis and so on. And because of that, gopis called Govardhan as Haridas Varya. Haridas means, Hari means Lord Krishna, Das means servant, and Varya means topmost. So gopis called Govardhan Hill as the topmost servant of Lord Krishna. And uh, uh, when this pastime of Govardhan Hill took place, uh, uh, all the rasas of bhakti like Madhurya, Sakhya, Dasya, Vatsalya, all of these different rasas Lord Krishna could experience at the same time. So when Lord Krishna was lifting this Govardhan hill for the 7 days, everyone was at the same place, and Lord Krishna could reciprocate uh, Sakhya pastimes with the gopis, with the gopas. Uh, Lord Krishna could reciprocate with the Vatsalya pastimes with Mother Yashoda, with Nanda Maharaj. He could also reciprocate the Madhurya pastimes with the gopis present there at the same time, and so on. So, because he could reciprocate all the possible rasas with everyone present there at the same time, that is why Govardhan Hill is considered even more superior to Vrindavan. And then Govardhan Hill facilitates the pastimes, the beautiful pastimes, confidential pastimes between Radha and Krishna. uh, that is what are facilitated on the Govardhan Hill. So the gopis, when they arrange the meeting between Radha and Krishna, they are all only on Govardhan Hill. So here you can see there is soft grass present, uh, which which is a very favorable, which makes it a very favorable place for the cows of Lord Krishna to graze there. Uh, there are trees laden with lot of delicious fruits. There are beautiful flowers there. There are flowing streams. There are rivers on Govardhan Hill filled with delicious water. So the pastimes of Radha and Krishna become very, very beautiful when they are performed on Govardhan Hill. So that is why Govardhan Hill is considered even more superior than Mathura and Vrindavan. And ultimately, the uh, the holy place of Radha Kund. So where is this Radha Kund located? Radha Kund is located at the foothills of Govardhan Hill. So there is a small kunda, as you can see in the picture here. There is a small lake there, which has been which was discovered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came to this material world 500 years ago, uh, he discovered this place called Radha Kund. He was very, very eager to discover this place, uh, and when he was having very lot of difficulty to find this place called Radha Kund, there was a lot of difficulty. It was not easily accessible, but ultimately he was able to discover this place called Radha Kund. And at that time, when he discovered this Radha Kund, there was only a small pond there. And when he took the bath, when he bathed in that pond, he was surcharged with ecstasy. He was very, very ecstatic after taking a bath in that small pond. And he told to his associates, the six Goswamis, that this is Radha Kund. This is the original Radha Kund. And why Radha Kund is so special? Because there is a very, very beautiful, very, very sweet pastime associated with Radha Kund. And what is that pastime? That pastime goes like this: that when Lord Krishna took birth in Mathura and then went to Vrindavan and Gokul and so on, Kansa sent a lot of demons to kill Lord Krishna. And one fine day, Lord Kansa sent this demon in the shape of a bull, and his name was Arishtasur. So Lord Krishna killed this demon called Arishtasur. And because he killed this bull, the gopis told Lord Krishna that since you have killed a cow, since you have done some go hatya, then you have incurred a big sin on your head. So you should repent, you should atone for this sin. And Lord Krishna said that no, no, I have not killed a cow. Actually, he was a demon in the form of a cow. I have killed a demon. Huh? So, no, no, the gopis did not agree. And they continue to say that you have to now do some atonement. So, Lord Krishna asked, what atonement can I do? So, the gopis say that you have to go to the all the holy places, you have to go to the all the holy rivers, take bath in all these holy rivers, and then only your sins will be atoned. So Lord Krishna says, what is the big deal? I will invoke all the holy rivers at this one place, and then they can form a small water body, and I can take bath, and I can bathe in that water body once, and then my sins will be atoned. Then he invoked all the holy rivers. The holy rivers appeared, and then it formed a kunda, which is known as Sham Kund. And Lord Krishna took bath in that Sham Kund and then told to the gopis, now I am purified. But then he turned the table around. He said that since you have sided with that demon, hmm, you have sided with that demon, you took favor of that demon, now you are also incurred with sin. Now you also have to take bath. So that then the gopis became worried that where do we take bath? Then Lord Krishna said, no, you take bath in the Sham Kund. The gopis said that no, we cannot take bath in this Sham Kund. It is actually now, since you have uh, washed your sins in this kund, the kund actually has become dirty with your sins. We cannot take bath in this kund. So now we will make our own kund. How are we going to make this own kund? Then the gopis took out their bangles, and then from that bangles they started to excavate the land. Lord Krishna smiled. How can you, with these bangles, can excavate a kund? Then Lord Krishna, having mercy, seeing the pure heart of the gopis, he invoked the rivers to also go and to the kund that the gopis were trying to excavate. So the water from Sham Kund actually transferred to the Radha Kund, and then the gopis took bath in that Radha Kund. So the point here, dear devotees, is that this kund is representative of a very nectarian pastime between Srimati Radhika and Lord Krishna, and uh, it is filled with the love, nectarian love of Srimati Radhakrani. So the water in this kund is nothing but love of Radhika Devi in a form of the water. So that is where that is why, because it is representative of the pure love between Radha and Krishna, it is considered even more higher than uh, the Govardhan hill. So this is a very special place, and we need to deal with this place with lot of reference, with lot of reverence and respect. Should not show kind of a frivolous behavior like go and try to swim in the Radha Kund or enjoy in the water and so on. Prabhupada would always try to take his Western disciples at the Radha Kund and will explain the glories of the Radha Kund and so on. So now, after understanding the glories of Radha Kund, who intelligent person, which intelligent person will not like to take the benefit of this particular place and make his life successful? So this is the sum and substance of this particular text, and I must admit that the content of this text is beyond my own spiritual realization. So if I may not have been able to explain the purport or the text very nicely, then it is only because of my own spiritual limitations. So kindly forgive me for that. But with that, I would like to bring this class to a conclusion here. All glories to Sri Updeshamrit, all glories to Sri Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Rup Goswami. Now we can open the floor for discussion. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thanks. No words. Beyond imagination, we got it today. Beyond even anything so far you taught, it is supreme.
So you are
It is.
so you are now planning to visit Radha Kund soon in within next week, Prabhuji?
Wallah, that I cannot promise, but it is really eye-opening. I would not have known it without you in my life. I can
Okay.
accept that. That
Yeah.
in such a short time, in such a nice way, simple way, you have taken all of us. I don't know about them, the level, but I know my level to beyond my imagination. And
Okay.
only one question
Yes, Prabhuji.
I have, whether all those things I was reading before or watching before, Spider-Man, etc.,
Mhm.
they are real or virtual, or what you taught us today is
Mhm.
real or virtual. It's
Yeah.
really,
So
really leading me to a what a big ocean of thing from where I
Mhm.
have to swim out, and I
Mhm.
need your help to swim out. But it is
Mhm.
really, you are taking me to bigger, if there is anything bigger than Radhakund, to that ocean. And
Yeah.
no words, nothing, no pen and paper. As we say, okay, Prabhu ke liye, अगर पूरी धरती को कागज बना दूं, पूरे वनराज को पेन बना दूं, पूरे ओशन को इंक बना दूं, तो भी आपके गुणों की चर्चा नहीं लिखी जाएगी. It will
जी.
be difficult to write. All this will be short of that.
Yes,
So that
Prabhuji.
is
Thank
what is
you.
my understanding and feeling. And really, today's 1 hour has been ecstatic.
Thank you,
And
Prabhuji.
I
Okay,
hope,
good.
thank you.
Prabhuji,
Yes,
Ji.
Manish Prabhu. Yeah,
Prabhuji, today was
thank you.
something little bit a different eye opener for me because up tak jo what we were listening was spiritual world was the ultimate goal, correct? Whenever we die, we have to go to the Golok Vrindavan where the Lord resides and we should reach to the lotus feet of the Lord. But today
Hmm.
you said that most of the things are in the material world only where we can serve the Lord, correct? So how
Yeah.
this was I felt how means even after we take rebirth or something. So first of all means I felt like we should take more rebirths only to serve the Lord in the material world rather than going into the spiritual world in this case.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So it is coming from actually text number 8.
mhm,
So text number 8 says Tishthan Braje. So reside in Braja.
mhm,
Reside in Braja. So reside in Braja. So somebody might ask, how do we reside in Braja? Where do we go in Braja? So that's where the next verse says that, okay, Rup Goswami is saying that Vaikuntha is good, Vaikuntha is spiritual world,
mhm.
but even greater than Vaikuntha is Mathura. Even greater than Mathura is Vrindavan. Even greater than Mathura is actually uh, Govardhan. Even greater
Govardhan,
than
yeah.
Govardhan is Radha Kund. So the devotees who are at the sadhak level, who are at the
Hmm,
practicing level. So we discussed about Rag Bhakti and Vaidhi Bhakti.
hmm,
So Vaidhi Bhakti is something like Bhakti in practice. So Bhakti in practice means we are still afflicted with all the anarthas, lust, anger, greed, pride, illusion, envy. So we are practicing Bhakti. No, it is
hmm,
not, we don't have spontaneous love for the Lord. So we are sadhak bhaktas, sadhakas. We are
mhm.
practitioners. But those who are Rag Bhaktas, they are actually spontaneous love. So for those spontaneous devotees, uh, spiritual world is accessible. Spiritual
Okay.
world is accessible because they can access the spiritual world. As I mentioned to you, to
Hmm, hmm.
advanced devotees, spiritual world start to become access even in this material world.
Oh,
But for
okay.
those sadhak bhaktas, those who are at the practicing level, where do they go? So for that,
Mhm,
Rup Goswami is saying they can actually go to Mathura. Even higher than
mhm.
Mathura, they can go to Vrindavan. Even higher than Vrindavan, they can go to Govardhan Hill. And the topmost is Radha Kund actually, which is filled with the water actually is nothing but love of Radhika Rani in the form of water. Just take some the drops of those water on your forehead,
Hmm.
and then actually it is like for the practicing devotee, the spiritual world is available in the form of Radha Kunda, even in this material world. So that's what
Okay,
he's
okay,
trying to
okay.
tell us. Yeah.
And the another question was like I was very much feeling shy to ask this question from long time regarding the spiritual world, but today you
Uh-huh.
have given more clarity on this. But still, as you said, whether it is imaginary, whether it is really a fantasy, it is still a dilemma. I don't know how. Suppose if I try to explain all this theory to the scientists, like the NASA or something who discover planets, stars, if I tell them most of these stories, will they really believe in this? Or means because they are
No,
the one. Uh, who do more work on this. So how does
mm.
is their views any how do they react on such things?
See, the spiritual science works differently. Spiritual science does not work the way scientists think it will work. For
Hmm.
spiritual science, you have to reside in Braja. Reside in Braja means you have to have selfless service attitude towards the Lord, and then
Okay.
you have to learn the art of devotional service under the guidance of a devotee. So if
Okay.
the
Okay.
scientist can do these two things, they can
Hmm.
also become devotees. But the scientists will not do like that. Scientists will
Correct.
only talk about theories, only talk about formulas, and so on and so forth. So each branch of knowledge work has its own laws and rules,
Okay.
and devotional service also have laws and rules, and that is how it works. So it works when you selflessly serve the Lord, when you selflessly serve the devotees of the Lord, then by the mercy of the Lord, you will be given this revelation of spiritual world.
Okay,
This is
okay.
the formula. This is the formula. So it doesn't work the way the scientists think. Scientists think that you go to a university, you take a good degree, you get a good grade, then you work on PhD, you do all these kind of research and all that, and you understand, you read big books, and then you become scientist.
Mhm.
That is how scientists think. But
Yeah,
devotional
correct.
service is a different ball game altogether.
Mhm.
It works differently. It has its own rules. If you follow
Yeah.
those rules, if you follow that process, you will get those results. Not the
Okay.
results of not the rules of scientists.
Yeah, got it. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. Okay, ji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Ishwar Prabhuji.
Today's talk was, to my mind, was more to assimilate and connect ourselves to something which we cannot see but can imagine. I think it's more of imagination, more going closer to the unknown, and that
Yeah.
come only with faith. I think
Yes. Yes.
that's the
Yes.
central point. And
Correct.
if we talk about scientists, even the greatest of scientists have felt that there is something beyond
Yeah.
which they have not been able
Correct.
to go to.
Right.
Albert
Right.
Einstein was one,
Right.
another, I
One of
think,
those.
one of.
Yeah.
So, with those kind of affirmations by such brilliant people, there is hardly a scope that we should question on that. That is
Correct.
how
Correct.
I feel today.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank
Yeah.
you very
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
for this
You're right.
wonderful talk.
You're right. You're right. That is the intent. At least we should understand that having some place called spiritual world is a possible is a possibility.
Yes,
At least we can agree to that and continue to work on our process of devotional service. And if
quite,
the Lord is
quite.
merciful, if the Lord is really uh, if we are really doing our service well, then the mercy of the Lord will certainly manifest. But
Right.
even if it doesn't manifest, I would think that we are enjoying whatever we are doing still, so there is no point stopping what we are doing. So we are
Yes, we
uh,
are fulfilling the natural urge, as you said.
yeah.
It's a natural
Yeah.
urge. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something really good.
Okay. And yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
In the meanwhile, may I welcome Pradeep Prabhu, Ila Mataji, and Sunanda Mataji. So welcome Prabhuji and Mataji.
Thank you.
So Pradeep Prabhu was
Thank you,
not there.
Prabhuji. After a
Yeah.
long
Sunanda
time,
Mataji
I
was
joined.
yeah, had a little break. So welcome Mataji. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, we will close the discussion, and I will post the recording and the slides on the WhatsApp group. I'm also preparing the quiz, and I have already prepared 14 questions. I need 20 questions, so 6 more to prepare. So most likely, I'm going to post the quiz in this week. But the next week, we will have a class on Ram Navami, which will be 10th of April. 10th of April actually is the Ram Navami day, and that day we will have a class on Hindi. So, and I will also invite devotees from the Hindi class to join the session on Sunday. So it will be a combined class for the Hindi group as well as for the English group. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna
Prabhu.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.